Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode. No need to go to multiple news outlets to get your entertainment, sports, news, and politics fix in. We've got you covered. Welcome to the Cronkite File.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get started with the 5-day forecast for the rest of this week. It's been heating up in the valley with record-breaking temperatures for the month of February. Last week crept into the 90s, but for now, it won't look to be as hot this weekend. Tuesday, we have a high of 78, but it's going to quickly shoot up to 87 by Friday and Saturday. Luckily, it'll be clear skies with perfect weather to cool off for a swim or get those summer tan lines in before we even hit the spring. The nights are still becoming chilly, not a lot of heat retention here in Arizona. So for you early morning risers and late night enthusiasts, be sure to bundle up just right for the cold. Those lows can be seen dipping down to the low 50s. Moving on, let's take a look at Arizona. Flagstaff 55, Prescott 66, Tucson 80, and Havasu 77 just in time for spring break, and Yuma 82, catching some of that California weather right there on the border. Meanwhile, the lows are going to catch around the 50s, exception Flagstaff will cool down to 24 degrees, Prescott at 33, and Tucson at 44. It's also cool weather around the country, even on the West Coast, with LA at 78 for their high, Seattle at 58, Denver at 51, Dallas 61 with heavy winds, and the north experiencing snow, Chicago at chilly 37, but last but not least, New York receiving rainfall at 47 for their high. That's the weather for today. Back to you, Colette.
Thanks, Anthony. There is no place like Arizona that can reach record-breaking temps in February that are firing hot. Speaking of fire, the Phoenix Fire Department came to the rescue this weekend. Here's Alexis Burdine with more, and following that is Austin Bundy with politics.
Thanks, Colette. In local news, the Phoenix Fire Department rescued a 28-year-old female hiker near Dreamy Draw Park on Sunday morning. She was transported off the mountain by emergency personnel to a local hospital where she was treated for an ankle injury. In national news, Saturday, Apple consumers in China spent $59 billion on their products within the last fiscal year. China is Apple's second largest market following the United States, and the company's major success in foreign countries is gaining federal attention. The United States government is pressuring the tech brand to aid them in the hacking of the iPhone of one of the attackers in the San Bernardino mass shooting that occurred last December in California. Over the weekend, a shooting rampage in Kalamazoo, Michigan left 6 people dead and 2 wounded. A suspect Uber driver is blamed for the incident that many are still trying to sort out. The victims range between the ages of 14 and 74. And in world news, Fiji has begun to recuperate after a cyclone hit over the weekend, killing 10 people. Cyclone Winston brought winds exceeding 200 miles per hour, torrential rain, and waves up to 40 feet. Some villages lay flattened after the Category 5 storm passed over. Fiji has never seen anything like this. It is so severe, and the cyclone was one of the biggest ever to hit the southern hemisphere.
This past weekend was chock full of news. And on Saturday, Donald Trump won the South Carolina Republican primary, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton took home a win in the Nevada Democratic caucus. After taking a look at the polls leading up, there was no surprise with who won. However, Florida Senator Marco Rubio is climbing once again, finishing second to Trump and ahead of Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush dropped out of the race shortly after the vote count began, narrowing the field to just 5 candidates. And on the West Coast, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders lost by a 4-point margin to Clinton, leaving him with a full plate of must-wins on Super Tuesday. The funeral of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia was held Saturday morning. According to the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., 3,300 people were in attendance, including the President, First Lady, Vice President, current and retired justices, and even Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz, who after the funeral told a reporter that he did not believe the Senate should even take up a hearing for Scalia's replacement. Now, here's how that situation could legally play out. The Constitution allows the president to nominate someone to succeed a justice, and the Senate has the ability to hold hearings in order to investigate and confirm a nominee. Once the president nominates a successor, the Senate must hold hearings to confirm or reject that nominee. The only way this Republican-controlled Senate can get their way and have the next president nominate a successor is if they filibuster the confirmation vote or deny the name the president puts forward. But Cruz has it wrong by saying they cannot even start the hearings. They cannot ignore the name put forth by Obama, but can delay the process to the point where a nominee will be null and void when he leaves office. The President and Senate Democrats can propose a name and then request hearings within the Senate Judiciary Committee for this nominee. That way, public pressure could take hold of the Senate, and the credentials of the nominee could very possibly push the process forward. But tonight, it's caucus night once again, but this time in Nevada for the GOP. With a win in South Carolina, Trump looks to take a dominant lead, with Rubio and Cruz virtually tied for second behind him. Also, the Democrats are campaigning hard in South Carolina this week, leading up to their first in the South primary this Saturday. And here on campus, the ASU Student Senate voted to oppose the concealed carry on campus bill Friday afternoon. The same bill was also opposed by the Arizona Board of Regents in January. There were two bills voted on. The first supported conceal and carry on campus, which got 2 votes for, 5 against, and 1 abstention. The other that opposed got 5 votes for, 2 against, and 1 abstention. It is now up to the state legislature to decide whether to pass this bill in the near future. That's it for politics. Back to you, Colette.
Thanks, you guys. Now let's shoot it over to Chancellor Johnson and Jade Hansen with sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chancellor Johnson. Shh. You hear that? That's how quiet the trade deadline was over the past week. We'll give you the updates on who's traveling where in the NBA. Plus, the closest finish in Daytona 500 history happened this past Sunday. We'll catch you up to speed with what happened on the racetrack and find out what hooper has everybody talking, including Kobe Bryant. But we'll lead off with ASU baseball, and for that, we turn to Josiah Destin and Brad Sherman.
Thanks, guys. For Brad Sherman and baseball analyst Josiah Destin, it is a great day for Sun Devil baseball as ASU is concluding their 4-game series as so far they've gone 3-0, winning 5-2, 2-1, and 8-2 last night. Now, Josiah, the Sun Devils have played great baseball so far through this series, but what player has kind of stood out that's going to carry this team for the rest of the season?
You know, Brad, a guy that I really like right now is Seth Martinez. He's the number 2 starter. Probably a little bummed he wasn't the number 1, but he got in that number 2 spot and pitched fantastic. 7 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs for Seth, and he's going to do that the rest of the season all the way until May.
Now, ASU is going to be playing 5 games in 5 days as they take on Nevada on Tuesday. How are these games going to translate into Nevada on Tuesday?
Well, Brad, I'll tell you something. These games are going to be a lot easier for the Sun Devils than that one game against Nevada on Tuesday. Xavier, they're nothing compared to Nevada. They're in the Big East, Nevada's in the Mountain West, 2 different conferences, 2 different baseball teams. But, you know, the Sun Devils have figured out how to play against Xavier, and they're going to use that for them. They're going to use that against Nevada on Tuesday, and they're going to play fantastic because they figured out themselves in these 4 games.
Now, one of the biggest question marks so far this season was the outfield depth. But that might not have been the case so far this series. Why not?
So far, I've liked Andrew Shaps in the outfield. He stood out and been great. He's a pitcher converted into a hitter, and for that, he's batted .667. A .667 batting average for a pitcher converted to a hitter is amazing. And he's proved himself so far, been the leader out there in the outfield, and he's been fantastic.
Game host, Jamie.
Well, you heard it from the best. Josiah Destin for Brad Sherman, live from Phoenix Municipal Stadium. Back to you guys in the downtown Phoenix studio.
We'll stick with hoops for now as we turn our attention to women's college basketball. Of course, UConn has continued to dominate teams around the nation, led by their star Breonna Stewart. But there's another name that has everyone talking, including the Black Mamba himself, Kobe Bryant. Rachel Banham, the 5'9" senior guard, has been lighting it up, dropping 60 points on Northwestern and followed that up with just a measly 52 points against a top 25 ranked Michigan State Spartans. She has now set the Big Ten record for career points, which got her praise from Kobe Bryant, where he tweeted out, "Clutch, at Rachel Banham 15. Not many players can saw a fade, let alone for a game winner. Hashtag Mama Blood." Rachel Banham is a must-watch and someone you don't want to miss. Speaking of something you don't want to miss, the Indy 500 was crazy over the weekend. Our NASCAR insider Jade Hansen has more on that great finish.
It was a given that this year's Daytona 500 would be a great one, with Ken Griffey Jr. waving the green flag to start the race, which ended up having the closest finish in Daytona 500 history. Denny Hamlin, who led the most laps throughout the race, wanted the win more than anything as he fought against Martin Truex Jr. at the finish line to just narrowly win this past Sunday. For a second, it looked like Kenseth had it in the bag, but then here comes Hamlin and Truex, fighting to the end, with Hamlin ultimately pulling off a truly amazing finish just by a nose. But unfortunately, the favored one to win, Dale Earnhardt Jr., ended up crashing, as did Chase Elliott, the Spotlight Rookie of this year's 500, and the youngest driver to ever start at Daytona. Luckily for Elliott, he's just getting started. But what an amazing race it turned out to be, and congratulations to Denny Hamlin in the number 11 car.
That's all for sports. Now here's Colette with entertainment.
Thanks, you guys. The royal family has quite the life, but things might not be working out so elegantly for Prince William and Kate Middleton, as a majority of their staff is considering walking out the door. Employees at Kensington Palace are debating going on strike because of a proposed pay cut for some of the staff. But you can't blame them. The staff fears that they'll lose up to $5,000 a year after a charity that manages salaries decided they might have to tighten up on the spending reins. Despite the majority, the Today Show reported that those very close to the royal family are not among those who are considering walking out on them, and those that are actually involved are reportedly those who look after exhibits, work in ticket offices, or show visitors around the grounds.
That is just too bad, Colette.
That it is. Joining me today is my good friend Jade Hansen, here to talk about some controversy going on between Kesha and one of her producers. Jade, we've got you everywhere today. What have you got for us?
Yes, you guys have me running all over the place. But on a more serious note, Kesha, she has claimed that Dr. Luke, her producer, has drugged and raped her. And while going through all of this, he has psychologically tormented her through it all. Dr. Luke has denied all allegations and says that they are just a way for her to get out of her contract.
That's horrible, and it's sad to say these type of situations happen much more than is seen by the public eye. Having that said, with your knowledge on the subject, Jade, is there any possible way Kesha can get out of this, and what exactly does this contract entail?
Well, Colette, she has been refusing to record, saying she won't work with Dr. Luke, whom she calls a quote-unquote monster. Their legal battle is not yet over with, as both sides want compensation for the events that have unfolded.
That's really too bad. Well, we'll keep you updated on the matter, and hopefully next week we'll have more of an explanation on how all of this will pan out. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for you today. For more on the Cronkite File, visit thecronkitefile.net for articles and more. As always, we hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next week. Thank you all for watching. I'm Colette Stein, and this has been the Cronkite File.